my name is Michael Bosey. Welcome to episode 189 of Marketing Without the Marketing. Happy you can join me today. Now, I've made a lot of noise about this in all my other channels, but now I want to bring this to you here on the podcast as well. I've started a new project. It's called Consider the Source, and it's kind of a natural extension of this podcast. This podcast, as you know, is really focused on people like you, small business owners, freelancers, solo entrepreneurs, other creatives, those of you trying to build an audience around a specific business purpose. And I wanted this new project, Consider the Source, to have a broader base than that, to be able to deal with messaging, if you will, in a more general sense. Not just in the business realm, but for anyone who wants their voice to be heard and understood. And not everything that I'm interested in fits neatly into this podcast, and I, of course, want to honor and respect your time and your level of interest, right? I don't want to bug you with things that you didn't sign up for. We're still going to do respectful, ethical, soft touch strategies here on this podcast in short format episodes, all of which are drawn right out of my work with clients. But for me personally, I wanted to do more than that, and here's why. Because this virus has put more distance in between us. It's pushed us further and further apart. We obviously can't gather in person as much, and when we do, it's behind a mask. And for me, fogged glasses, which is endlessly annoying. But it means that I can't see you smile, can't see your expression, can't detect an attempt at humor. Sometimes your voice is muffled. I can barely hear you. It's pushing us apart. And, look, even before this virus made this major impact on our lives, this whole thing wasn't great anyway, right? With all of us looking down at devices, responding to alerts, constantly being interrupted. Often when there's another human being right there in front of us. Now what happens when we're pushed into living almost entirely in a media environment when our habits weren't even that good to start with, right? And to me, this means that we're losing connection, and this lack of connection is not good for us emotionally, but it also means that we're losing power as well. When we are not connected, it's very, very hard to exercise collective power. And the people who are in power want to keep us separated, keep us fighting, keep us divided, keep us taking sides. And this means we're losing ground. So to me, if we don't get better at the way that we consume, share, produce media, we're going to lose battle after battle. And the risk of this is really great. The risk is that the ideals that we have, the new ideas that we try to put out into the world, we're not going to be able to make progress in the way that we hope to. If we want to make change in the world, it's always going to take some new, strong ideas expressed with clarity and with empathy in order to make a real connection. I say clarity because you need to be able to articulate that purpose in a simple, direct, and easily understood way to create a message or an idea or a concept that travels node to node, right? That people want to share. But to me, empathy is a big part of this too, because it starts with listening so that we can speak to each other, to understand one another, and to be understood. And I think that some of the biggest problems that we face today as a society could have been solved already with a better clarity of ideas and some empathy, right? So obviously the COVID crisis, climate change, systemic racism, policing, criminal justice reform, it's not going to be the whole solution, messaging, right? But it's going to be a key component. And here's the thing, that messaging, to me, that's marketing. Now look, if you're turned off by that word marketing, that's entirely understandable. We've had a lifetime of bad practices by bad marketers that teach us that response to recoil. But let me remind you of two things. One, marketing does not have to be that way just because jackasses do it that way. And number two, we're all marketing all the time, right? If you want to propagate any new idea into the world, whether that's a not-for-profit, a small business, you're doing marketing. If you have a creative business, writing, music, visual arts, jewelry, marketing. If you run a service, whether you're a plumber or you're doing health and fitness services, a personal trainer, massage therapist, you need marketing. And even if you are trying to find a traditional job, you still have to market yourself. So that to me means we got to get better at marketing. We may not use that word, marketing. It's why I call this podcast Marketing Without the Marketing, right? Because we have this bad sense of what that word means. But we got to get better at it if we want to push good ideas into the world. And of course, this is where I feel like I can help, or at least I got a chance of helping. Now, of course, having some respect for your audience, using these soft touch techniques that I talk about here, they're more in line with what today's consumers expect, than obviously interrupting people with pop-up ads and spam and other scams and things that these bad marketers do. But here's the thing. To me, it's also more in line with who we want to be as people. We don't want to come off as selling or pushy or aggressive. That sucks, right? And this stuff is what I call the digital representation of you. And we run the risk of missing the mark, giving people the wrong impression by using language that doesn't fit, is out of context, the wrong words, the wrong phrasing, falling into web cliches, and even unwittingly putting off our audience in the way that we present ourselves. That could be anywhere in the media environment, anywhere we show up and participate. Will we be heard and understood, or ignored and passed over? Or worse, you give the wrong first impression. And that's what I want to get into here. I call this project Consider the Source, and it will include audio, video, and other forms of media expression. It will live on Patreon as my project hub. And I'm doing this because I want this to be a closer, tighter community of those who are really interested. It's not just for anyone. I want to make the room smaller, if you will. It'll include a mix of free content and exclusive member content. Anyone can follow for free or become a supporter. And supporters get early access and exclusive episodes of this podcast as well. And I intended to have a more, a behind-the-scenes feel, since it's going to be a smaller group of people that I really trust. And it'll highlight the creative process, including my own, and it'll include some videos and live appearances and performances too. So if you're intrigued, good. I'll see you in there, and take this as my formal invitation. Looking forward to having you there. Again, the link is patreon.com/mbosey, and hope to see you upstairs in my studio. All right. Thanks for listening to this episode, and we'll see you next time.